Guys, this is our church on a sheet of paper. This is a one-pager. I don't mean to insult anybody by saying this is as simple as it gets, because I know it's complicated to go through it, but we don't need to explain it to people any more complicated. When you can make it easy for people to understand, you can rally your troops to make all kinds of smart decisions without you even having to be in the room. The 7 elements needed for good engagement marketing. Here's what I say, you don't need to write these down. I promise you, we're gonna go through and we're gonna talk about them, but I'm gonna read them straight off. Engage your customers as unique individuals. Base your engagement on what they are currently doing. Engage them continuously through their entire life cycle. Number 4, engage them where they currently are in the life cycle. Help them meet their needs. Engage them in a way you can measure, and engage them as quickly as allows. You don't have to think that my single marketing message that I'm going to send out is going to save their soul in eternity forever. Think about a moment, a step that they take. I used to be a high school baseball coach. Tangent, but the baseball diamond might be as close to heaven for me as it possibly gets, but I love my baseball. Here's what we used to tell our baseball players. You don't have to focus on winning the game. Certainly don't try to win the game at every at-bat. What you need to think about is winning 90 feet at a time. Just win first base. If you're standing on first base, just win second base. If you're on second, just win third. Eventually, we'll make our way around the diamond. If we do that enough times, we'll win this ball game. But if you try to win the game, you won't get there. If you try to win 90 feet, it seems bite-sized and tolerable and something you can do, and you can create action items on that. So if we're going to try to get the right message to the right person at the right time, it requires a 3-layered approach, and these things have to come together. Right? And that 3-layer for us is a clear strategy, meets a useful data, combined with relevant communication. We want to take them from where they are to somewhere else. But our job as guides of somebody that we're taking on a journey requires us to know a few things. The first thing it requires us to know is, where do we want to go? Right? If we don't know that, we can't take somebody on a journey if we don't know where we want to go. That's our strategy. Everything has to start with your strategy. If you don't, you're going to flounder and you're going to be all over the place. The second thing is we have to know who's going along. What's unique about them? Where are they already? If we're trying to head to San Francisco, is somebody here in Anaheim? Are they halfway up? Are they in Santa Monica? Where are they in the cycle so we can get them, and what's unique about them? Right? That's going to be our data. How do we find out who's there? And the third thing we have to do is we have to have a way to communicate with them. I got to find a way to tell them to take a step or not a step or where to go, and that's the clear communication strategy. Some of you may have seen something like this. All right, this is, and I even presented a little bit of this last year, and you guys saw a version of this last year because we were talking about our scorecards and our metrics. Everything's pegged to our strategy. What we measure is pegged to our strategy. How we engage our customers is pegged to our strategy. Right, if you haven't seen this, this is something that the marketplace has called for years a customer life cycle. Right, so the customer life cycle has been around for quite a while. It starts with what you call a purchase funnel on the top, an engagement wheel, and at the end it is an advocacy component. In a nutshell, this is that one-pager I was trying to tell you about. This is what we do as a church. If I were to try to tell somebody, what are we all about? Why do we exist? What is it that we are doing as a church? We're trying to take that guy on the left-hand side over there, and we're trying to move him to the bottom of this. We're taking a guy at the very top here who says, I have no idea about a life with Jesus, and we're trying to walk him through a journey where he becomes a disciple of Jesus Christ. This is us as a church in a nutshell. Everything about our strategy is predicated on movement. We're trying to move people down. This is where Hybels, if you guys have ever heard Bill Hybels talk about this, he says we're trying to take somebody from here and move them to a preferred future. That's our preferred future. And no disrespect, but as a follower of Jesus, we do have a specific path. And it's a narrow path. And our job is to resource and guide people to find a life with Christ, which is what we're trying to do. This is simply the strategy we go about to do it. Remember, this is not our theology. This isn't a theological discussion, it's a strategic discussion. What we want is heart transformation. We don't believe, hear me in this, we don't believe that just by going through the motion of this, you're going to have heart transformation. What we do believe is that when you go through this motion of it, the probability of that heart transformation goes way up. That's what we want. Trust me, if we could go to Walgreens and buy a pill for heart transformation, we wouldn't need a will, right? You would not need an engagement wheel. We would just point people to Walgreens, pay for the pill, have them take it, job done, church is over. We're in a good place. Our goal is to get them to move the next layer, which is commit. All right? Marketplace calls this purchase. I've looked at iPhones. I know they exist. Considering buying a new phone. I'm going to evaluate the iPhone versus a Samsung versus an Android. I'm going to look at them. At some point, I've got to buy a phone. That's commit. For us, the commitment usually takes the form of baptism. I'm committing to a life with Christ through baptism, or I've already been baptized, but I'm committing to the local church. That's what we look for in this commit. Now, a lot of places, churches, otherwise, they stop right here. They stop at the commit layer, not the good ones, right? This is where you move from a prospect. This is what they call it in the marketplace, a prospect to actually a customer. I now own your product, or I now am in, and we need to make the transition with people. You're not done. That's why we call this the engagement wheel. Our job now is to get them engaged, right? I'll tell you, I worked again in the auto space, and the auto companies have this down pat. They know that the minute you buy a car, they're not done with you. Their job is to engage you in the brand for the next 36 months as they possibly can, because they know in 36 months you're going to be ready to buy a new one. So we're going to spend that time to get you engaged, and we look at the same thing. Now, we represent this as a wheel. For most of us as churches, this is our discipleship program, right? This is what we do to grow disciples. Here's why we represent it as a wheel. I've seen a lot of discipleship programs that are linear. Take this step, then this step. The problem is spiritual development is not always linear. People are at different stages of life. They grow in different ways. The Spirit speaks to them in different ways. So we represent it as a wheel, and we tell people you can come in at any point, right, to participate in this. I'm going to walk you quickly through it. Worship. That is just what it sounds like. This is our belief that you need to worship God both as a community and service, and you need to do it at home through the Word, reading, and everything else. That's what worship. So we build our products and our services and our offerings all around that. The next is connect. Connect is small group ministry for us, right? Thanks to North Point, some others, we know that circle's better than rows. You guys have heard it. It's a great place for community to grow. That's our small group ministry. Serve. Here's one thing I've seen over and over again with small churches. They look at their volunteer base as a way to lower their labor rate, right? And they typically go to people and say, hey, here's where I need you to serve because it's where I have a need. What we're saying is by making it part of a member's engagement and their spiritual development, it's not about you. It's about them. How do they both grow or best grow closer to the Lord through the act of serving? So that's part of our engagement. I would make the same argument for giving. Giving is a fuel for a church. I know that. But we believe that giving is actually part of the spiritual development process. Right? If you don't give your resources and give freely of this and commit, it's very hard to grow in your faith. We know that. That's why it's the second biggest thing talked about in the Bible. So giving for us is not about generating. It's not a back office, support group for us in service. This is part of the engagement wheel. The last piece I have on there is share. This is all about evangelism. Right? This is the part that we have found that when people share their faith, their spiritual development actually grows as much as the development of people they're giving their testimony to. So we've made it part of the customer cycle. Now, when people are through this, when they are fully engaged, we encourage them to move to the next level. Marketplace calls that advocacy. It's where we become a brand advocate. A lot of places call them brand evangelists. Our coaches, we call them coaches, you can call them evangelists, you can call them disciples, there's 100 different names. They have two main points. Our job for a coach is to move people and to multiply. Right? So move. What we say is your job as a coach is to help other people get through the wheel. Your other job is to go to your realm of influence, your family, your friends, your workplace, etc., and put people back in the top of the funnel. Right? Move and multiply, the two things that we look for from a coach. What they were feeling, what they're going through, what decisions they're trying to meet right now. Right? So, think of it this way. Let's say you see somebody, you're standing on the corner of an intersection. And there's a guy standing there, and your job is to help him find the right direction across the road, but he can't speak to you, right? You have to determine where to do with him. Now, you can look at him. You might be able to observe a few things. You might observe he's not looking great. He's got a cold, or he's got the sniffles. Maybe he's got a prescription in his hand, and you see a Walgreens over on the other corner. You now can infer some stuff. You can predict, predictive analytics, what might be the best path for this guy based on the information you have without him ever speaking to you. That's what predictive analytics does. Takes that information and it says, this is what I know. I know I'm not going to be 100% right, but based on it, I can make a wiser, smarter decision about what I perceive to be your next path, and I can use that to help you make a decision. That's what we're trying to do, is we're actually trying to find people who are at a point of decision. They're standing at an intersection. We call that a decision graph. How many of you ever heard of a decision graph? That's great. Like one hand. You may not have heard about it, but I guarantee you've been part of a decision graph. You've seen it. How many of you ever searched for something on Google? Yeah, I know, a whole different story, right? If you look at the Google results, you get results below your search, and then over on the right-hand side, there's a box with other search results. That box on the right side is different for me than it is for you and than it is for you. That is what Google calls their knowledge graph, right? So they take information that they know about you, they pair that with what you've searched for, and they predict what you are probably actually really looking for, right? That's a knowledge graph. How many of you use LinkedIn? Okay, you've seen that. People you may know, relationship graph. It's based on your unique information, stuff they know about you, they pair it together, and they predict people you may know in a relationship graph. Amazon shoppers? Yeah, two hands, all of us, right? Shopping graph. You guys, we've all seen it. You may be interested in other products that would fit for you. It's just a shopping graph. Here's what we're trying to do as a church. Our goal is to create a decision graph for every person we engage. We want to understand them better so that we can help guide them into a next step. That's all we're trying to do through the use of big data and our internal data so that we can bring in some of this predictive analytics and say, where is predictively his best next step? Is it small group? Is it serving? If it's serving, rhythm of life, he travels a lot, small children, all the indicators that we know, we find lookalikes, guys who have joined, then we can go ahead and say it's serving. And not only serving, but what would be the best place for him to serve? Maybe it's first impression. He's a customer service guy. We've got a bunch of information. This is something maybe we'd gravitate to. But what's cool is we can now deliver the message at the right time, the right place via our mobile app. When he's on campus, walking by a meet and greet that's introducing you to first impressions, our goal is to create a decision graph for every person we engage. We want to understand them better so that we can help guide them into a next step. Ultimately, what we want to do is we know where they want to go. We now know the people that are there. We now need to talk to them. That's layer 3. Layer 3 is creating a tailored communication message to go on top of the strategy, the data, now a tailored message. There are all kinds of tools for us in this area. We know that, right? We know that we have bumper stickers and phone calls and social media and mobile apps. There's all kinds of things. It's true that different methods apply themselves better or worse depending on where people are in that life cycle. The key, though, is to understand where they are and apply the right method to them. We have no misconceptions that a bumper sticker is going to encourage somebody to get baptized. I've yet to hear somebody say, hey, I was driving on the road, I saw your bumper sticker, I'm in. I'm ready to go. Let's dive in. Let's jump on that. But we do know it's a great awareness building. I can't tell you the number of people when I'm on an airplane and they see the logo and they're like, I've seen that on cars. What's that all about? That's all I wanted. Just wanted to make them aware. Now my job is to move to consider, right? So the key here that I want to leave you with is know which tool you have and make sure you're applying it to where the person is in the life cycle and somebody specifically. A generic one-size-fits-all across the board it doesn't work as well. Yes. Here's my example of this. I've already given you, I'm a business guy. You can throw stones at me. The other thing is I'm a hunter. I actually like to go out and hunt. So in case you don't like that, save it for later. Anyways, here's what I equate this to. The days of using the wrong tool would be as if I were a hunter and I walked out randomly in the woods, and at random points of time in the day, I just started shooting my gun in the air, hoping it's going to hit something and hoping it hits a thing that I'm actually hunting, right? It's ridiculous when I say it that way, but that's what we do often when we throw out generic campaigns across the board, hoping it's going to hit somewhere. We can be targeted snipers now. We don't have to go out with this rogue shooting on this. But what's special is that it was the right design delivered to the right person at the right time in the medium that they best consumed for that idea. Here's what I'd say. This is a little side note on this, but I'd say when you are able to take everybody, this big mass of people, and put them in buckets, there's also something that was kind of unique that comes out of this. You can create a bucket that says don't market to. Now, in our world, who could that possibly be? For us, that's people who we now know are already part of a local church. Our goal is never to try to go out and cannibalize another church. Yet if I do a generic campaign, I can't tell. I can be hanging a door hanger on a pastor's house, and I have no idea. So our goal is to say, look, if you're part of a local church, that's what we strive for. Stay there. Be a member of it. Get engaged with it. We're targeting the people who don't know Christ yet. So when you get campaigned, it helps you do that as well. Our goal, and I mentioned it too, is that every single member of our church would have a customized experience. We're in the process right now of redesigning both our mobile app as well as our website to do just what you see. These are actual mock-ups. We should be done within the month here. What you'll see is the guy there that's on the left. The first thing we're doing is we're letting everybody know themselves where they are in the life cycle. Remember that life cycle I showed you with the wheel and all that good stuff? That's represented by those bubbles that are under their name, the green and maroon bubbles. Each one of those represents whether they attend service on a regular basis, whether they're in small group ministry, if they serve, if they're giving. We even highlight that so everybody can tell themselves exactly where they are with the life cycle. What it also allows us to do is message to them uniquely based on where they are. If somebody's already in small group, why am I telling them about small group registration taking place this weekend? It's not only unnecessary, I'll be honest with you, it's really annoying, right? I've been in small group for 10 years, and every time you ask me to sign up, I think, seriously, how much longer do I have to be here before you actually know that I'm in small group right now? So what we do is we now can tailor the messaging. You'll see it. This isn't voodoo, right? It doesn't have to. It's science. And at the end of the day, how you communicate with your people matters. Making them feel relevant, making them feel personalized is an era we live in today. We can actually be big church, big C church, and make people feel welcome as part of this. It's going to require a real clear understanding of your strategy. If you don't have your own customer life cycle, your own member life cycle, then I would suggest that you draw one. Figure it out. Put it on a page. What steps do your people need to make? My encouragement here is you can copy anybody's, but at the end of the day, it's got to be tailored to your own spirit-filled convictions of your church. What's unique to you guys? What piece do you bring? I guarantee you our church is not the church that fits everybody, right? If we have $1 to spend, we're going to spend 70 cents on it winning new people to Christ, that upper funnel. That's just who we are. We're hyper-evangelistic. That's what we're going after. Second thing I'd say is don't be afraid of data, right? You can engage firms. You can try to do it on your own. Win a moment. Don't think of it as a big piece. I want to just start with small group ministry. Pick something, right? Let's take small group and let's find out who's not in it. Let's win that moment of how we can communicate with people uniquely with regards to a piece of the pie there. If you don't have a church management system, you need to get one. And then the last one is set a goal, right? It's almost a mindset that I'd say. That our goal is to communicate with everybody in a tailored fashion, in a customized, individual. Once you set that mindset, it's going to allow you to figure out all kinds of cool things as you go through this.